Welcome to the debate between candidates running for the Southampton Town Council. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I'm Susan Wilson. I'll be moderating this debate tonight, and Barbara McClancy will be the timer. We are members of the League of Women Voters of the Hamptons, Shelter Island, and the North Fork. The League of Women Voters is a national, nonpartisan political organization. While we never endorse any candidate or political party, we are directly involved in the many issues important to keeping our communities strong. We are respected for the work we do sponsoring candidate debates and for preparing and distributing educational materials on voting issues. Here is the format for tonight's debate. Since this is a virtual debate, there will obviously be no coin toss to determine the order of candidate responses. Instead, candidates will respond in alphabetical order, rotating with each question. Each candidate will have an opening statement of 2 minutes. I will ask a series of questions, and each candidate will have 2 minutes to respond to each question. Each candidate will be given the opportunity to 3 out of turn 1-minute rebuttals. Raise your hand when you want to do that. After the questions, each candidate will make a 1-minute closing statement in reverse alphabetical order. Now let me introduce the candidates running for Southampton Town Council. Robin Long, Cynthia McNamara, Thomas Scavoni, and Ann Thomas. Thank you. Let's begin with opening statements, and we'll start with Robin.
Good evening. First, allow me to thank the League of Women Voters for this forum and for all it has done and is doing to preserve and advance the franchise. In that spirit, I address you this evening as an applicant for the position of council member of the town board. With your solemn and important civic responsibility of the vote, you will determine which one of the candidates before you are best qualified to meet the challenges, both current and future, that will face our town. As a small business owner of a local real estate law firm, I am living the demands and challenges facing our business community. Working with clients from one end of the town to the other, I've gained valuable insight into the commonalities and differences within our hamlets and villages. As a public servant, I have led the way in ethics in government as chair of the Suffolk County Board of Ethics and considered housing needs on the Southampton Town Housing Authority. Sitting on the Southampton Town Planning Board for the last 5 years, I've carefully weighed the delicate balance between development, environment, economy, and community by listening to the public when they testify, knowing and understanding the secret process. I've raised 2 children who are contributing to the greater good. My son Jeffrey is a principal planner for a public developer. My daughter Marissa is a medical doctor with the rank of major in the United States Army. Both are happily married and each bless me with grandsons. I reside in Hampton Bays with my 2 rescue pups, Harley and Charlie, and a very opinionated cat. I asked you to consider my qualifications, review all that I've accomplished as a businesswoman, attorney, and public servant, and the answers that I will give you to the questions that will follow, and endorse my candidacy with your vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Robin. Now, Cynthia.
Good evening. Thank you for hosting this evening. I am running for Southampton Town Council. I'm a lifelong resident of the town of Southampton. I kind of have a unique background because growing up here, my parents were renters. So I spent the first decade or so of my life in North Sea, right across from the Tupper Boathouse and Little Fresh Pond. And then the following 10 years were spent in Southampton Village, where I graduated high school from Southampton. And my husband and I then bought a home and started a business in Hampton Bays, where we resided for 10 years. We then bought our house in East Quogue, where I have served on the East Quogue Board of Education. So I understand how assessments affect our school taxes, which are 80% of our budget. So when assessments are skewed, it really hurts the residents of districts like mine. And I'm on the CAC as well. I'm the chair of the Youth Club CAC. And people need to be heard in this town. There's a lot going on. People aren't being heard. And when you have CAC members leaving CACs in order to file lawsuits because they don't feel they're being heard, there's things that are wrong in the town. And I really want to bring back public advocacy, and I want people to be heard. And that's why I'm running. Thank you.
Thank you, Cynthia. Thomas Scavoni.
Thank you. And I go by Tommy John. That was my given name, but I had a lot of Toms in my life. It's Tommy John. So I want to thank the League of Women Voters for hosting this event. And I want to thank everyone for tuning in and watching this Zoom. It does matter. I'm a councilman in the town of Southampton, and I was elected 4 years ago. And 4 years ago, as a candidate at this very debate, I stood before you committed to the fiscal responsibility of government, clean water, affordable housing, an understanding of tick-borne illnesses, and really above all for me and many of my colleagues, the protection of our environment as the driver of our local economy. I'm proud to say on the town board, we have accomplished a great deal in these areas. We have passed accessory apartment legislation. Crucial. It allows people to have accessory apartments and have older folks stay here while younger folks are allowed to stay in this area. We instituted a tick surveillance program. I'm proud of the response of the town of Southampton during the COVID-19 pandemic, which, by the way, is still with us, as we all regretfully know. And in my 4 years, the town's fiscal health has improved. Our fund balance has gone from 32 million to 46 million, while our long-term debt has gone from 110 million to 84 million, all while staying under the New York State tax cap. Also in that 4 years, we have preserved hundreds of acres of land, and we have instituted clean water initiatives and saved multiple farms in the process. But in my second term, there's more to do. I pledge to you that we will create a shared equity program that will have real consequences on affordable housing. Also, the Fire Island to Montauk plan, the town of Southampton, we are going to be instrumental in obtaining the use easements so that the Army Corps of Engineers can do that work. I've already started on that with the Army Corps and numerous water quality initiatives. And again, I thank you for the debate and I look forward to the questions.
Thank you. And let's hear from Anne.
Thank you. First, I want to thank the League of Women Voters for hosting this event and TV. Also, thank you to all who are watching today. My name is Ann Thomas, and I'm running for Southampton Town Council on November 2nd. I have called Southampton home for 30 years. I am originally from Texas with family in oil and gas and medicine. I came to New York when I was recruited from Conoco, headquartered in Houston, to work on Wall Street, building institutional risk management departments for Chase Manhattan Bank and Citibank. Moving to New York City was a more difficult transition than I imagined. It forced me to look outside the city for balance. I discovered Southampton. I took up horseback riding in an English saddle versus a Western saddle. I found peace, balance, and my home in Southampton. Besides horseback riding, I'm active in the First Presbyterian Church in Southampton as a deacon. I volunteer with Meals on Wings to feed our elderly. I am a 10-year veteran and count of the Polar Bear Plunge that raises money for our local food pantry, part of the Hamptons. I believe my background working on Wall Street has given me valuable experience in management, budgeting, research, structuring transactions, as well as policy and compliance issues, all of which would be helpful in formulating legislation. My primary issues of focus are property taxes. One, to ensure fair property assessment for our homeowners that will impact their property tax. Two, housing, to provide affordable transitional housing for our locals, our youth, and our labor force. And 3, strengthening our local businesses, the core of our communities. I would like to be the source and the voice for alternative funding options for our community's requirements.
Okay.
Let's try having a new conversation on the town board. Let's look for alternative funding options before we reach for increased fees.
Okay. And your time is up. I'm sure you'll be able to get some of those other ideas out as you answer the questions or in your closing remarks. Thank you. Let's move to the questions. Would you vote to mandate COVID shots for all Southampton town employees? And would you require mask wearing for everyone who enters town hall? And we will begin with, excuse me, with Robin.
Interesting question, because very interesting question. I didn't expect that one. First off, I do not believe in mandating the shots at this time for our workers. If we are able to mandate testing that will be able to secure and prevent the spread of the disease. Here's the issue. When we were on planning board, and I've been on planning board for the last 5 years, we have transferred over to doing it by Zoom. We had a couple of personal meetings, some public meetings, and then as we saw the Delta virus starting to spread, what has happened is we have gone back on Zoom. We believe that it will increase the amount of people who are willing to participate in public meetings and in public hearings because they have the option to use the Zoom. As to masking, I believe masking is essential, especially if people are not going to get the shots. Personally, I could not wait to get my vaccination. I sat in my car after getting the first shot and cried with joy that I was privileged to be able to get it. I believe it is a mistake, personally, mistake, but for mandating it for everyone, I have issues with those mandates if 2 other things go into effect. One is masking and the other is testing. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Cynthia.
I am absolutely against mandating COVID vaccines. I do know friends that have had reactions to the shot. I know friends that are very happy they're vaccinated. I'm vaccinated. It's a personal choice. I believe it's something you should discuss with your doctor, weighing your own personal health issues. So I wouldn't vote for mandating it. As for masks, I believe we do have people that have situations where they have immunocompromised people at home. If you're going to be in a town setting and you're going to be close and you're going to have full capacity back in town hall and you want to make everybody feel, more protected. If the town chooses to have a mask mandate, would I vote for it? No, I would go with the state guidance on that. I don't think the town should start taking up its own mandates on things like that. I think we should, follow what's going on statewide. But by all means, if people want to wear masks, they're free to wear masks. There's no shame in taking extra protection, extra precautions for you and your family. I highly recommend it. So I wouldn't mandate it. I wouldn't mandate either.
Okay. All right, thank you. Tommy.
Well, we've already mandated masks at Town Hall back in 2020, last year, when we were first faced with the world pandemic. We required masks in the town of Southampton, and it's my belief, and there's a considerable amount of science behind this, that masks work. When 2 people wear masks, it works better. So, as far as a mask mandate, absolutely, and for health reasons. This is to protect people and, we have done that. As far as the COVID vaccine, we've been taking guidance from the Suffolk County Health Department and, more importantly, the State Health Department. And what I would look for in that regard is some kind of unanimity in a policy statewide and area-wide. To do a one-off, to have the town mandate vaccines for their workers and other areas or other municipalities, the village or the fire districts or something, if they're not doing it, I don't believe that it is as effective. So if the state had required us to require mandates for local government, then yes, I would absolutely do that. I hope that people get their vaccines. We had the vaccine center in Southampton, and after a while, we just stopped getting vaccines. We know that they work, and I urge everyone to please get vaccines.
Thank you. Anne?
I would not mandate vaccines. As far as masks go, I almost think that's institution with, if Town Hall is wanting that to be the case, then it should be so. My church, we were not masked, and then we were remasked. And I'm totally happy to honor whatever institution or building is mandating. But I think the vaccine is, that is something personal and doctor oriented. I believe in following the science. Dr. Scott Gottlieb, who is a national figure, and some of our very prominent local doctors are, also not necessarily requiring that. They're saying they support it, but they don't believe it's necessarily mandated, and that some of the new medication that's coming out of Moderna in pill form, that kind of thing, is going to be helpful in alleviating some of this mandate requirement, especially as we head into flu season.
Okay, thank you. Let's move on to question number 2. How will you work to improve town government communications with the villages within the town's borders on issues of mutual concern? And we will begin with Cynthia.
Thank you. This is actually a great question. And it's actually one that shouldn't need to be asked, because the villages have representation. It's the hamlets right now that have no representation. And it's where we need to work with. We need to work with communicating with our hamlets. Our villages have representation. They have people that can come. They can put forth plans and ask for funding. It's the hamlets right now that really need our support. And it's a place that I really feel strongly of. You can drive around town right now, actually, and you can see the difference between living in a hamlet versus living in a village. If you're in the hamlets, there's signs everywhere on the sides of the roads, at every intersection, on CPF properties, on Conic Land Trust properties. You get into the village, all those signs cease to exist. They're only on private property. Why? Because those people have representation, they have stronger ordinances, and they're taken care of. The people in the hamlets don't have that representation right now, and it's sorely lacking, and it shows right now when you drive down the street. Thank you.
Okay. Tommy.
Tommy John Scavoni, Southampton Town Councilman. And we have 7 villages within the borders of Southampton Town. And the communication between the villages and the town is really, really essential and incredibly important. During the COVID-19 pandemic, we were on conference calls with the villages, and we were coordinating efforts with the village. In addition to that, the town of Southampton does participate in shared municipal purchasing with the village, and not just the villages too. I'd like to add the fire districts and the school districts as well. Communicating with our 12 school districts within the borders, and some kind of go outside the borders, is important too. When the Flanders ambulance needed to purchase fuel, we contracted with Suffolk County and Flanders. They're now getting their fuel like 27 cents per gallon cheaper, and over a year, that matters absolutely. So the communication is always open. While I was a school board member, we were the first school on Long Island to participate in the shared services program of Suffolk County, and the Sag Harbor School District is part of that. We purchased fuel from Southampton School District, so we're well versed in this, and our doors are, of course, always open to our villages. In addition to that, Southampton Town, on my urging, we do share services in terms of code enforcement and other town services that we negotiate with the villages so that we both can achieve the economy of scale, and also that, at least the villages, they certainly can get a little bit more, responsive government services for their constituents. So it's important that we communicate not only with the other villages. I'd like to add the 4 other East End towns as well. There's a group called the Mayors and Supervisors Association. They meet monthly, and it's an important group for us to share common themes and values on the East End. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anne?
I totally agree with the better coordination with the villages and the town. I have friends in some of the villages, and we're already having cooperative conversations, whether I'm elected or not elected. But I also agree that we should, I agree with Cynthia, that we should be coordinating between the incorporated and unincorporated. We really need to, as she's indicating, some people feel hurt, not. So I think we need to, on the town board, we really need to make that extra effort to really be inclusive and solicitous of people who are feeling unheard. Let's start that new conversation. Thank you.
Thank you. Robin?
I'd like to take this issue from 2 different directions. One is an understanding that we are the town of Southampton. Our boards, our appointed boards, our representatives are not and some other towns do this, where the town council people are district oriented. We aren't. Our responsibility when we put our hand on the Bible and we take our oath of office is to represent the entire town. And we have to look at the town that way. I've learned that through the planning board. It's by a theory called segmentation. We do not look at any particular issue or any particular development or any particular need as to how it affects one area of the district or one area of our neighborhood or one area of our town, but how it works through all of it. So now there's 2 other sections on this. It is the coordination, which has been excellent. The coordination between our administration and our town board right now with our county representatives and our state representatives. When you take a look at the representation we have from Fred Thiel, Assemblyman Fred Thiel, from County Legislator Bridget Fleming, we know what kind of coordination we have. And from Jesse Warren, our mayor from Southampton. The other thing that I want to talk about is our internal responsibilities each one of us has to engage the citizenry in our government. We have a responsibility to reach out through the CACs and through our individual boards to make sure that we engage the citizenry, we get the minutes out to them, because right now that's a big issue because of COVID. People want to know what's going on. That is my responsibility as someone elected. Thank you.
Thank you, Robin. What additional affordable housing is the town planning, and what more do you think we can do to address the critical workforce housing issue? And we will begin with Tommy John.
Thank you. Thank you. This is one of the most important challenges that we face in the town of Southampton. We are, in a sense, guilty of our own success. People want to live here from all over the world. They've come to Southampton town to live here. Our housing crunch is profound, and so town needs to step up and provide affordable housing. I'm proud to say that since I've been in office, we passed an accessory apartment law, which allows people in all parts of the town to add accessory apartments to their homes. And I said this a little bit in my opening. You know, accessory apartments they work for a number of reasons. They allow the homeowner to get some feedback, to get some rent and some income. And so, you know, older folks who have a home, they could stay here. And also it allows younger people to stay in the area as well. And currently, right now, on Governor Hochul's desk, there is a bill that was sponsored by Assemblyman Thiel and Senator Palumbo. And this bill would create the Peconic Bay Housing Fund. In fact, this bill was passed and it was vetoed by Governor Cuomo. This bill would allow the towns to have a real housing program. And I mentioned a shared equity program at the start. This would give us a sustained funding source to provide a variety of housing initiatives. For me personally, I believe that we should be pushing home ownership and to try to keep our younger folks here and also to keep some of our senior citizens here. Once this gets signed into law, it's going to be a benefit for the town. Had it been signed into law last year, the 5 East End towns would have had over $35 million to use for affordable housing. I hope she signs it, and once she does, we are going to hopefully institute it. That would, of course, require a public referendum, and we've also updated our master plan to accommodate it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anne?
I think we should be studying all existing viable properties for this use versus spot zoning, and make sure the housing is well distributed throughout the township. You know, I believe that we have added 0.5% to the Community Preservation Fund for affordable housing. Whether that was a good idea or not, it is now. We could have put out 0.25% or of the existing CPF to really get some of the, you know, I hate to say affordable housing because that has one connotation, but transitional housing for our youth to start a family and that kind of you know, developmental until they can buy their own home. But I'm not for starting to add more taxes to our community for this fund because we have money for this. And I further think we should use some of our local talents to make these housing developments attractive. And we should also keep the water quality and the traffic in mind. So many of them are built on 27, which is about, you know, that defeats part of the purpose. You know, now we have housing, but we're creating another problem in the traffic sector. So I think we need to be very thoughtful and strategic. And I think we have money to fund these programs without raising further taxes.
Okay, thank you. Robin?
You're muted.
You muted?
Sorry. As a transactional real estate attorney, a member of the planning board, a member of the housing authority, I've had extensive experience in housing. Let me say one thing so that this is very, very clear. No one hamlet hold or have the burden of solving the workforce housing problem. Every district, every part of our town must contribute in their own way to solving this problem of either you want to call it workforce housing. I like to call it workforce housing because that's what our young people need. They need housing to live here so we can get doctors and teachers and nurses and police people all to be able to live in here, in our town. So I'd like to look at this as a twofold issue. One, we cannot be looking at just new housing, new developments, expansive developments. That is not the only way of looking at changing and addressing the workforce housing problem. We also have to look at our housing stock. That is, by the way, being done by the town already in their housing project that they're working on. There is a housing report that they are putting together. So we have to look at the existing housing, our existing stock, and see how we can assist first-time home buyers in getting their houses and people being able to sell them easier and quicker. So as I said, I've had the experience, and I look forward to working with our different partners in this, including the Long Island Housing Partnership, the county, and the state. Thank you.
Thank you. Cynthia.
Thank you. I absolutely agree with Robin on this. This needs to be spread out through the entire town. We do need to look at existing housing. I've actually had conversations with Michael Daly about this, and I told him I found it funny that he's on the ZBA while he's fighting for what I like to call attainable housing, because I feel like our land use boards, especially the ZBA, is part of the problem. Because when you know that you can get the variances to throw a 3,000 square foot house and a pool on a quarter-acre lot, the land becomes worth a lot more. People know they can get these variances because they've been getting them for years. So now the land is what we're being priced out of. It doesn't matter if you have a 2-bedroom ranch, which is what I started out in 20 years ago. I was able to go to real estate agents and say, I want to look at houses under $100,000 20 years ago. That's how far we've come. The same house in the same neighborhood that I bought my house in Hampton Bays is now being sold for $789,000. That's a huge jump in 20 years. And the reason why there's been such a huge jump is because people are buying it for the land, because we're running out of land. We've done a good job of preserving land, but we haven't done a good job at making sure we have land available to put attainable housing on. And as somebody who grew up here, and as somebody who have friends that are in the fire department, our teachers and nurses, they don't want to live in boxes. They don't want to be the worker bees shoved in boxes. They want a home. I want my kids to come back here and have a home to raise a family and not an apartment. So it's really a big problem. And I'm very happy that, we have this plan coming for money, because I think once you take state money and federal money, you start to lose local control, which we really desperately need. And I do absolutely want to look at helping out first-time home buyers, and also making sure that our land use boards stick to our zoning districts. Thank you.
Thank you. Moody's now uses climate change in their financial evaluation of municipalities. A lower rating will affect the town's bond rating. In view of this, and given the challenges of climate change, what specific environmental and sustainability initiatives would you recommend the town implement? Are you in favor of upgrading the town's fleet to electric vehicles, or changing the building codes to require only electric new construction, or requiring energy upgrades when houses are sold? Where do you stand on this issue? And we will begin with Anne.
I have long thought that we should use for our fleet vehicles, electric power for our buses and our fleet vehicles. That is a very easy source for, it's an easy refueling station source. I wish we had more natural gas capacity on Long Island. I think that's also a very clean burning. But I think we need all sources. We have solar, we could use more. We have wind, which is, well, it needs better technology. Wind is wanting. So I think that in the United States, including our town, we need all sources of energy, but the clean burning, but the electric, anything uses either natural gas or coal to fuel electricity. So it has a carbon footprint. So we just need to keep that in mind. But I think that the fleet and buses would be a wonderful venue for electric power. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Robin.
This is a subject I'm very passionate about. The environment is the economic engine of our town. We like to say that the environment is the economy is the environment, and the environment is our future. On the planning board, we have been implementing actual change. Understand that it is very difficult, all right, to implement these type of changes because we have to respect the private sector, which has to come along with us. So what have we been doing from the planning board? Because I can speak of my own experience. We have been working with the Sustainability Committee, which is an extremely important committee that is a part of the town committee structure. And then on the planning board, what we've been doing is encouraging people who are building in our district to green build is one. Two, we have been encouraging charging stations for electric cars in developments or in new buildings. We've also been encouraging the use of solar panels. And don't forget all of the grant money that's available for the new septic systems that is going to save our water source and our water. So I believe that the town is starting to move in that direction, and we will have to drag behind us, if necessary, the private sector. But we can do that through planning, through laws, and through grants. Thank you.
Okay. Cynthia.
Thank you. I am in favor of the solar array being hopefully planned at the Southampton North Sea Transfer Station. I think it's a good use of land that's currently not being utilized. I do feel that there should be an absolute disconnect between the town and the private sector when it comes to mandating changes. I am all for educating and incentivizing businesses. I think when you get into requiring energy upgrades when places are sold, you then drive up the prices of those units. As far as building codes being upgraded, they already have for septic. And, I'm in favor of them as far as technology allows. We also have to keep in mind, though, the town is doing a good job of being green. And they are, it's nice to say that we want to ban things, but when they start impacting small businesses, it becomes a problem. The town wants to mandate that landscapers be green and use battery powered equipment. That's a great thing for the town because the town has taxpayer money to spend $65,000 on equipment. Small businesses don't have that money. So by all means, if you want to incentivize businesses to do that and you want to give rebates for things, by all means. I think once the technology is there, it will not need to be mandated because it will become the logical choice. But I think some things are being forced that shouldn't be. And I respect the town on wanting to be green. I know they are buying EV vehicles whenever it's feasible. Sometimes it's not, just like some equipment's feasible and some's not. So I do believe that it should be incentivized, it should be educated, but it should not be mandated. Thank you.
Thank you. Tommy John.
Thank you, and thank you for the question. It's an incredibly important question. Climate change it's affecting all of us, of course, and we are seeing it on the local level. In the town of Southampton, we are acting to combat climate change. We have to make infrastructure changes. Our roads are currently engineered to handle 2 inches of rain in a 24-hour period. We are seeing, and I believe that everybody here knows and everybody watching, that we are getting stronger rain events. In fact, the Northeast, our waters off in the Northeast are warming quicker than other parts of the world. So we are seeing invasive species throughout the town and in the waters around the town. We have a responsibility to act locally on this issue. We believe that the hognose ray is eating scallops in the bay. The harvest is collapsing this year. And we have been a leader in this area. Our Hertz ratings, our electric requirements for new construction are some of the highest in the country. And they are positively affecting positively the electric usage in the town of Southampton. We have those in place. We began steps to create a community choice aggregation, the CCA plan, which would allow for community solar, which would allow for the town of Southampton to negotiate with green energy producers to purchase energy for our constituents. Of course, people do have the opt-out option. Also, we passed code, and I want to thank Councilman Bouvier for this. He's really been a leader in this field. We passed code to allow houses to have battery storage capacity. Currently in the United States, we've got about a half hour of battery storage capacity if something ever happened to the grid. So integral with the saving energy and fossil fuels is storage, where we can save up energy during the day to use it at night. And I look forward to answering other aspects of this question in the future.
Okay, thank you. All right, now we have Robin.
I think
would like
Robin's
to speak
raising
out
her
of turn.
I
Yes.
just wanted to tell the viewing public, because it's so important for them to understand this, that the developers and the private homeowners that have come before the planning board have been not only cooperative, they have been advancing before even our requests, the hopes to have IA systems on septic, putting in electric charging stations, building green. I will say that perhaps I should have not said we're dragging them behind, because many times they've been ahead of us. And I want to thank the developers that we're working with for doing that and having this sense of what is right for the environment is good for the town. Thank you.
Thank you. I see that, and you know that we could probably spend the entire hour speaking about environmental issues and sustainability, and the League is very much interested in those areas, as is the general public. But there are lots of other things that are important too. So, and if we have time, I will go back to that subject. But right now, I'd like to ask, based on the Community Law Enforcement Review Committee's police reform plan approved by Southampton Town earlier this year, what would you do to implement the plan and improve the town's relationship with the police department? I'm sorry, and we will begin with Robin.
Oh, okay. I find that this plan is such an encouraging moment for the town of Southampton and for the people and police department and our police department. We are blessed with an absolutely incredible police department, and our chief of police is leading the way. We also in the village, by the way, just got a woman is going to be the chief of police of the village. But what I have seen and what I find so exciting is that by this plan and by all the meetings that were done in anticipation of putting out the report, the lines of communication that have been opened between the police department and the community has been incredible. We have been able to establish that this is not a versus situation. It's not the police versus the community, and it's not the community versus the police. This has been a godsend in that it has shown everyone that we can work together. Now, I would like to see more hiring in diversity. Of course, we all believe in diversity. All right, so we'd like to see more diversity on our police department. I'd like to see, of course, the continued communications, meaning it was great to have these hearings and these meetings for a report. I'd like to see these meetings continue on an ongoing basis so that we aren't reacting to bad situations. Thank you.
Cynthia.
Thank you. I actually attended the public hearings on the plan, and it was very informative. There are definitely members of our community that, you know, had issues with the police, be them minor, be them major, but they were able to air them in that forum. And I think it was a safe place for everybody to get together and have a discussion. There was no finger pointing, really. There was nothing negative that came out of it. It was a very healthy conversation between the police department and citizens and members of community groups. And that's what we need to do. This is our town. This is where we all live. You know, the police officers that serve here are our coaches. They're, you know, they've been with our kids. They have their own kids. We're friends with them. It's our community, and it's community policing, and it's everybody has a role to take. And like I said, those hearings were great. They were very informative. They were, I wouldn't say eye-opening, because there was really nothing that I heard that made me go, wow. But it was a great place for everybody to come together and be heard. And there were some situations that I think got addressed. They were rectified. The police chief met with people personally. And I feel like that's more what we need. We need an open dialogue. We need the police. We need to feel like the police are accessible to us. And they are. You can talk to them on the baseball field. You can talk to them, you know, down the street in town getting a coffee. So, and I think our police agencies have tried more. I've noticed more, you know, have coffee with a cop. I think we need more of those things, and we need to engage with our police officers so that they know we support them in the job that they do to protect us. Thank you.
Thank you. Tommy John.
Thank you. The Community Law Enforcement Review Committee, I believe, was a great success. And I have to say, as a member of that committee, I was, of course, involved in all of the meetings where we brought together stakeholders throughout the community, as well as law enforcement, government. And we had some hard conversations, good conversations, productive conversations. And it was good for all of the folks that I listed earlier to hear one another. I have to commend our chief. I have to commend the members of the law enforcement on the job that they did with that committee, and really for the job that they're doing for our community. Our law enforcement, they do outreach to the community. We did have protests during the Black Lives Matter last year, and the protests went without incident, and that is not by accident. That was because our police and the leaders of the protesters were in communication. That shows the professionalism of the leadership of our law enforcement community, and also the cooperation of the people who wanted to have their voices heard. So we had them, and it was what it was. It worked, and also, the community, I believe, is better for it. One of the things that came out of one of the hard discussions that we had in the Community Law Enforcement Review Committee meetings was, among things, body cameras. And I believe that the future of law enforcement is going to be body cameras. I believe that it's going to be part of the uniform at some way, shape, or form. Currently, we have a pilot program for this. And really what we're looking at and what we reviewed was the storage of information from these body cams. When they're running, they're recording information. And as a government, we are then required to save the information and also retrieve it as evidence if necessary. It protects all involved, including law enforcement. Thank you.
Thank you. Anne.
I think our police do an amazing job, but open discussion is always a great idea, whether that's discussion with our council or our citizenry. The nuanced discussions, the more detailed grievances that have been heard and remedied is always a good thing. Statistically, which is how I drive, our police has 5% complaint. So I find that they are, just amazing on the streets, solving our problems, everywhere from, leading our Halloween dog parade on Job's Lane into Main Street, Southampton. I mean, they do all kinds of jobs. They're just amazing. So I'm glad that there's that open dialogue for our citizenry to have those opportunities to state their grievances, have those heard and remedied. But I give our police great credit. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, We are at a point where we will take closing statements now. We don't really have enough time to fully cover another question, unfortunately. So closing statements will begin, and you will have 1 minute to do that. And we'll begin with Ann Thomas.
Well, thank you again to the League of Women Voters and CTV for orchestrating this evening. This is the first time we've all been together for a debate. It's great to see everyone. But I believe that we have a critical choice to make within our town. We have heard great candidates tonight, but we need to look at the facts. This is not just about an individual candidate's goals or even political affiliation, but rather about our community and about the ability to get the job done. I'm not a typical politician, and I don't owe anyone favors. I'm an independent thinker, and I take pride in my ability to solve problems collectively. If elected, I will work hard to bring honor to the position and reinvigorate our town. Thank you.
Thank you, Ann. Tommy John.
Thank you. I am Tommy John Scavoni. I am a councilman in the town of Southampton. I am also a native of Southampton town. I'm a plumber. I'm a husband, a father of 2 beautiful children, and a retired social studies teacher of 32 years. In addition, I taught college classes from Syracuse University and Suffolk County Community College. I've been endorsed by Assemblyman Fred Thiel, former Congressman Tim Bishop, Suffolk County Legislator Bridget Fleming, Supervisor Jay Schneiderman, and the Long Island Federation of Labor. And I want to thank you and everyone's time for taking the time to hear us and hear our positions on a number of issues. And I humbly ask for your vote on November 2nd for the town board so I can continue the work that I've begun as councilman.
Thank you. Cynthia.
Thank you. The reason why I'm running is because as the chair of my local CTV, when I started 4 years ago, we had 12 to 15 people coming to meetings regularly, and we were all really raring to go and wanting to get things changed and getting issues addressed. 4 years later, I'm lucky to have a quorum. And that's not because the people don't care anymore. It's because they feel like they're not being heard. And when you have members of CACs stepping down and filing lawsuits because of major changes in their hamlet that they feel they weren't heard on, not once, twice, you have chairs of CACs being removed because they don't have the same ideas that should be. This is a problem. They tried to take away the CAC's ability to address land use boards. How are the hamlets supposed to have a voice? How are the people of our community supposed to have a voice if you're literally taking away the one committee that they have that's in their local community? It needs to change. People need to be heard, and they need to feel like they have a voice. Thank you.
Thank you. Robin.
You've heard my qualifications and my answers to the insightful questions posed by the moderators. Now you must consider and weigh all in anticipation of voting. I respectfully submit to you that the extensiveness of my experience, both governmental and legal, makes me ready day one to serve. And with this, I make you 3 promises, not 1, not 2, but 3. 1, to always speak honestly and in truth to power. 2, to always do what is right for you, even if it's wrong for me. And 3, as I have done when I took my oath for the Board of Ethics and again for the Planning Board, I swear to uphold the Constitution, the laws governing this town, and always to represent all of the people of the town to the best of my ability. I thank you to the League, to the citizens of the town, and those who have spent the evening with us. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to thank all the candidates for their participation tonight and all of you for watching. You can see this debate in its entirety on CTV's YouTube channel and on Southampton Town's CTV channel 22. I'd also like to remind you that it's important to make your voice heard on the issues that are important to you. So vote on November 2nd or take advantage of early